So anyway, so we were talking about the young lady who was in Virginia. She went to Immanuel Christian School, and she had accused the three young white guys of holding her down on the schoolyard, or I'll say holding her down during recess, having teased her, having mocked her, said that she was ugly, said that her hair was ugly, said and pinned her down, covered her mouth, and then cut her locks. So I was like, wow. And if you saw my live on Friday, I went through this whole thing, and I was like, you know what? It was just a horrible experience. Like, I could not imagine having gone through anything like that, having somebody pin me down, cover my mouth. And I likened it to, unfortunately, like a situation of rape. And so I was saying on the live that I had to check into it legally and see whether or not we could consider this a form of rape. And then one of the viewers, Miss Arnetta Rogers, who's one of my colleagues in the National Beauty Cultures League, she said, well, not only, even if we can't say that it is, a form of physical rape, it was a rape of her dignity. And so we went through this whole big thing, and we said, maybe the children, they learn, this is a learned behavior from children. They feel like it's okay because of what may be going on in their homes. And so we came up with this whole thing where we said, not only should the children be punished, well, first of all, we were talking about how should the children be punished. Then we said not only should the children be punished, but then maybe there should be some form of punishment for the adults as well. And so as we went on and we talked about it, and we were talking about maybe some form of restitution needs to be paid, because the kids have done this, but kids continue to do things because they aren't held accountable by their parents or by any form of authority, and so they continue to do it until later on in life. Of course, they continue to do things, continue to do it, and they find themselves in jail. So to help curb that at a young age, we said we will hold them accountable, but not only them, we're actually going to hold the parents accountable as well, so that the parents would then be a little tougher on the children and making sure that they're going in the right way that they should go. And then so we said, well, maybe the parents should be punished somehow, and we came up with the whole idea of restitution. So that was on Friday. And then so over the weekend, so we're waiting, because I know I was waiting to see how this whole thing was going to unfold, because we knew that there was going to be an investigation. And the police department in Virginia completed the investigation, and what did they find? Come on, people, I need y'all to talk to me tonight. I see a couple of people up on there. However, what did they find? They found that the young lady, or I'll say the young lady, admitted to not telling the truth. And so why I found this to be interesting was because I said, here we had this whole scenario of what should happen to these three young boys. We looked at it. Well, I know I said that I would classify it as a hate crime. I would classify it as, some form of physical assault, some form of rape. And I had went through this whole thing, but now we say that the young ladies, or the young lady, has not told the truth. With that being said, what do we think has happened? So I was talking to a friend of mine today, and all right, looks like we may have lost somebody. We have lost some people, not some people, but we lost the connection via Facebook. But I'm going to keep talking about it. So it looks like maybe, or I'll say this. Let's throw out some options, because with the options, what do we think has happened? I think, as some options, number one, as I was talking to my friend, she said, well, do you think that the young lady was paid off? while we're doing that, I'm going to see if I can reconnect here on Facebook. Do you think the young lady was paid off from her claim? Do you think that the parents at this school, they got to her and got to her family and said, you know, we do not want this to go any further than it has already gone. What do we need to do to make this go away? Do you think that there is a possibility that the young lady and her family were paid off some sort of way? Okay, so we're back here. I'm gonna bring back in the Facebook. Do you guys think that her or her family was paid off in some sort of way? What say you, Instagram? What say you, YouTube? Welcome back to the people at Facebook. We are talking about this, I don't know if we can call it a case, but to me it was like a case. And y'all know I love, for those who know me, you know I love jury duty, and I love everything that has to do with the legal system and the courts and all that kind of stuff and how justice is played out. And so I need to know from you guys, tell me, now that we found out, or now that it has been revealed, I should say, or now that it has been stated that the young lady had made a false claim against these 3 young men, how should we handle that, being that this was a young African-American girl? Now, I just want to bring you back because I liken this to many, many situations in the legal, that we've dealt with in the legal systems over the years. But let's take it back to the Central Park 5. Let's take it back then when the young lady, who was a Caucasian young lady, she accused the 5 young men of raping her. Do you guys remember that? Let me see some hearts or something if you guys remember the Central Park 5 case, because it's very, very relevant now, especially with the gentleman who's in the office of the presidency. He led the helm of the conviction for it, or I'll say railroading these young men in the media. He was the one who had newspaper stories and whatnot published. He made commentary saying that they should have the death penalty, that all these things should happen to them, but they were not guilty of what they have been accused of. The lady accused them of something, and we then convicted them of that crime at that time. So now let's bring it back to this. Now notice how the tables have turned. Follow me now. The tables have turned. So now we're many, many years later, and we have an African-American young lady who made a claim against 3 Caucasian gentlemen that is being revealed. And I'm going to say that is allegedly, because I want to leave just a little room. I need some more of this story to play out. But they, you know, they were accused of something, and they did not do it. They said they did not do it at that time, and she came out on the news, you know, through the media, and made this allegation. Let's see, Pam on Facebook says, the sorry things have to be done. That's not cool at all, no matter what color you are. Absolutely, Pam. I think that that's something that we have to address, which is the element of being truthful, the element of telling the truth, especially when it comes to people being judged for things. Because I know I said to myself last week, these young men should be removed from school. That is number one. They should be suspended and expelled from school, and they have to understand why they should be suspended and expelled, because they committed a form of assault against another student. Praise Shout on Instagram says, anything is possible. It's possible that they were paid off. Hush money. I'm so glad you said that, because that's what my coworker said. She said, oh no, they were paid off. You know, the family was paid off. You know, do you think that, well, first of all, I'm going to say, I know that anything is possible. I know that anything is possible. But what do you think? Whatever happened to the ref that told the African American young man that his locks had to be cut or he couldn't play the sport. Okay, well wait, we got to get back to that. That's going to be another show because I needed to wrap this one up because I talked about this on Friday. I was so on fire about it on Friday that I did want to do the recap to kind of go through the full story and talk about what actually happened. And then someone called me today and said, oh, she came out and said that it wasn't the truth. And I said to myself, that can't be true. And so I'm waiting to hear from the news, and I'm hearing the news reports in the evening. And then so many of the reports said that the parents, they apologized and they were sorry for what was the hurt that came to the family, the disgrace that came to the other young men because they were now looked at. And so now I'm wondering, what would cause the young lady to create such an elaborate story and then go forward and reach out to the media? What would make a person, again, create such an elaborate story? Because the story had, it seemed to be like it was very, very plausible. What would make someone do something like that? And so she went on, and the things just seemed so believable. She said that they said that she was ugly, that her hair was ugly, that, and they mocked her, they held her down, cut her hair, ran off, blah, 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 all these things. But I said, what would make a person do that? I'm not sure. Anybody have any insight on that? What do you think could have possibly made this young lady come up with this story and then come up with it? Because the parents had to also go to the school prior to going to the media. They went to the school, and I'm sure the school said, let us investigate it. But then lo and behold, she's on television telling this story. So what would make a person do such a thing? And then not only did they do that, I would say at this point, what would you do if that were your child? How would you feel? Because if I know I said last week, and I said this before to I was teasing with my mother, and she was sharing with me my nephews are now riding the school bus, and they were a little nervous about riding the school bus. And I told them, I said, well, they have no reason to be nervous. Because if they feel that something is going to happen, or if something happens, I said, they have an uncle that has no problem fighting children. So I will get in my car and I will go to New Jersey and handle the problem. That's me. So now I'm wondering, again, as a parent, I know how I would handle the situation. I would be very upset. So I'm sure the parents were outraged when this happened. But now that it comes out, or even if we say, they were paid off, they have to now come out on television, which to me would be humiliating. After saying that, come out on television and say, my child did not tell the truth. My child made up this story, and now, basically we have to eat the humble pie, because what are we going to do? She has to now apologize to not only, I'm sure her family, but to the students that were involved, into the school. The parents have to then apologize to the school, I'm sure, because it caused them a lot. And I'm sure that, they went through a lot to investigate this whole thing. Even though I think all manners or all things or allegations that come up, especially in an educational setting, need to be investigated to some sort of degree, because we never know what happens. And God forbid that something does happen that we don't look into, that happens on the grounds of a school or whatnot, and it turns out to be true, be it some sort of bullying, be it some sort of assault, whether it's just physical assault or sexual assault. Anything that happens, I feel, within a school confines is worth investigating. So as we move on with the story, because I don't want to spend all night on this, but I'm only going to be with you about 10 minutes more. I just wanted to kind of get this out. But now I feel like now that we came up with this whole plan of what should happen for the three young boys, what should their parents do, what do you guys think that, should happen with the young lady? What do you think that should happen with her parent? Because yes, they took the word of the student, but the same way we said that the parents need to have some form of punishment in regards to the three young boys, what manner of punishment, or I don't want to say punishment, but what manner of recourse should happen to the parent? Because here the student, they had to use government funds to bring in the police to do the investigation to find out what actually happened. Praise Shout 37 on Instagram says, if money is more important than a child, they are crazy. If it's my child, I'm going to stand by my child no matter what. I'm right with you. I'm right with you. 24 Years to Life says on Instagram, she says, yes, the child and the family were paid off. I'm not sure. I want to lean to they were paid off, because them being paid off, I can understand that. I can process that mentally. I don't want to process this young lady concocted this story for some reason to get these kids in trouble. Or like the student said, the three gentlemen said in a response that she was seeking attention. So when I saw that part, I said to myself, that's something that the parents have to investigate. Because if your child goes to lengths like that, seeking some sort of attention, it makes me wonder what's going on in the home that she feels like that attention is lacking. Now again, I'm not a parent, and I don't beat up on parents when I have these conversations. I just say I know that being a parent is a tough job. It's a 24-hour job. It's one of those things where you have to be involved and engaged with your child every step of the way in order to keep a handle on what's going on. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that, in order to be a parent, I think especially today, gone are the days when you can kind of leave your children to do what they do. We have to be so vigilant and mindful and watchful of the things that our children are doing and how they are engaging with us and other people to ensure that they stay on the right path. So praise_37 says, I was going to say the same thing, attention seeking. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I'm glad that you agree. Pam from Facebook, Dr. Pam Hill out of VA says, this is crazy, or this is crazy, so she should not be able to return to the school, and she needs to be dealt with in some form of punishment. On top of that, you're messing with people's lives, and something needs to be done. Sorry, that has to be a young black girl. You know what, Pam? I totally agree with you. And I'm glad you said that the end part, that sorry, it has to be a young black girl, because again, I didn't want to think of that either. I wanted to look at it more so from the standpoint of, or not look at it from the standpoint. I did not want to believe that because she was a young black girl. My hope of hopes was that she was not, she was not telling a lie. But we have to apply the same consequences across the board. And so if she did tell a lie, the same thing, and like you said, it does involve the livelihoods of other people. Suppose this had not come out, that it was not the truth. Suppose the children had been punished in some sort of way. They were removed and expelled from school. That was put on their record because it is some form of assault. That there were other ramifications, and we didn't find this out until a couple of years later. What kind of damage would that have done to these three young boys? that would have turned the whole way they look at I don't want to say the justice system, but the system of justice, meaning the administration of the school. Here we are, we're being blamed for something, we're telling the truth, and for whatever reason the school doesn't find in our favor, now we lose hope in the administrative judicial process for, you know, the schools or whatever. And then later on in life we have no hope and no faith in the judicial system of the country or of our state, of our county, you know, what have you. So these type of things can have long-lasting ramifications, you know, depending on how they come down. So I am glad that we came to not the conclusion, but we came to the realization that this was not true by the admission of the young lady. And again, I'm hoping that it is a matter of money versus her just not telling the truth for some other reason. I'm hoping that, because I can rationalize her parents saying, and again, please understand that I'm not saying that that's right. I'm in no way condoning it, but I can rationalize it in my mind and say we don't know the situation of that parent, and we know that people do crazy things for money. The Bible says that money is the root of all evil, you know, and so we know that things happen, you know, when money is in play. We see how families get torn apart when a piece of money comes out in the open. You know, when you find that somebody has inherited money or somebody passes on and they left some money. We see how the ugly of the ugly comes out in people when things come down to money. And so when it comes to this particular situation, I could rationalize if the parent opted to say, you know, we're going to take this back or we're not going to proceed further because we're not going to proceed further because we need this money that the three families have said they're going to give to us to not push this any further. I can rationalize that. What I wouldn't be able to handle with that is, as the parent, I'm taking this money, but now I have to make my daughter go out and speak against what she said happened. That she has to now go out and take back what she said on the news the week before. The young lady shed tears while she was on the news. So to go and to say that all of that was untruthful, you know, to me would be devastating. And I don't think that I could ever, if I had a child, I could ever make my child go, you know, do anything like that, to go and take back something that they've already said has happened, knowing that it may have happened, but I'm doing it for the sake of money. And now one of the things that they did bring up, which I said kind of threw that whole financial piece into the story, they said that the tuition for the young lady at the school is $12,000. And so it made me wonder, why pull out that piece of information? Why is that important? Why is the tuition amount so important to bring out in the story when it comes to this young lady? And so as we wrap up this evening, you know, the one thing that I could say is, you know, with any story, we have to see how things play out. We can't be so quick to jump to conclusions, and myself included. You know, first of all, I have to control myself a lot of the times, because when I heard the story, I was like, ooh, I said, oh my goodness, she is, you know, they held her down, and I was on the rampage. If you go back to my page on Facebook, you'll see the commentary from Friday when I was in the car and I was talking about it. And I said, you know, all these things, this is how I look at it. These are the things that I believe should be done. I asked and polled the audience that was on. We gave some really great commentary, some great suggestions as to what could be done to these three young kids to make them understand that what they did was not right. But now I ask, what should happen to the young lady if she, in fact, was not truthful. So I want to thank you all for joining me this evening. I just wanted to bring that out. That was the wrap up to the story on last Friday. Well, I'll say last week. I believe it happened the week before. The investigation was last week. The news report was last week. Please go to my page. The story is there. I'm actually going to post the recanting of the story as well this evening. So go back, look at all those things, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some other stuff. I have some pretty interesting things to talk to you about. I have a list of topics that I'm sure you will absolutely enjoy, and I most certainly enjoy being here with you. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining me this evening. I see Arnett, I see Omar, Reggie, Vicky, thank you so much for joining me. Sharon Moon, Danielle Douglas, my other sister from the National Beauty Cultures League, Dr. Pam Hill, all those who are on Facebook. I see Stewart, 24 Years to Life. Praise Shout, thank you so much for your input and watching this evening. And I hope you all join us. I can't read those who are on YouTube from where I'm standing, but I thank you guys for joining me. So YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, thank you all for joining me on this evening. This has been another commentary episode, whatever you'd like to call it, installment session of Sheer Chat with Dr. Rashawn Broadnax, and I am so happy to be here, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Have a great evening, everybody.